Blade and the Secretary fight Hydra. Hydra escapes with Michael Morbius, and Agent 13 escorts a wounded Whistler, Blade, the Secretary, and Union Jack to the helicarrier. On the carrier, Blade and Union Jack meet Nick Fury. Nick Fury explains to both of them that they were tracking a mutate created by Michael Morbius called Hunger. Nick also explains that Hunger and Michael experimented with bats to fight a debilitating disease. The results were mutated man-bats, which put them on their radar. Ancient One appears on the carrier using a magical portal with Hannibal King and Daimon Hellstrom to tell everyone that Hunger plans to release Dracula from his interdimensional prison at Red Skull's castle. With the new information provided by Ancient One, Nick Fury sanctions him, Blade, Union Jack, Hannibal King, Agent 13, and Daimon Hellstrom as his new Dark Avengers. The Dark Avengers deploy to Red Skull's castle, while Whistler and Jack's secretary stay on the carrier for injuries. As the Dark Avengers deploy and land a few miles outside of Red Skull's castle, they check their parachuted supplies dropped from the carrier. During their inventory check, Blade sneaks away from the Dark Avengers to raid Red Skull's castle himself, because he has trust issues. Blade takes with him a few knives and a sword to fight Hydra, Hunger, and Michael Morbius by himself. The Dark Avengers decide not to follow Blade into the castle until they can work out a strategy of attack. Meanwhile, while the Dark Avengers are planning their attack, Blade is at the gates of Red Skull's castle, stealthily killing one Hydra agent at a time. Eventually, Blade makes his way into the Red Skull's castle. Feeling overconfident, Blade turns a corner inside Red Skull's castle without being cautious, and he nearly gets electrocuted to death by a trap designed for intruders. Hydra agents take Blade's dying body to Michael Morbius' lab at Red Skull's castle. Michael Morbius, as Hydra's prisoner, now works for them to prevent the bomb they strapped to his girlfriend's lab assistant neck from detonating. Hunger has Michael working for Hydra to develop a cure using his DNA for Dracula's sunlight problems. But Michael's and Hydra's experiments to cure vampire sunlight syndrome don't work. However, Hunger has another plan to use Dracula's prison to block out Earth's sun if Michael's experiments fail. As Michael is given Blade's dying body for experimentation, he gets an idea to save himself, his girlfriend, and Blade. Michael figures that Blade's half-vampire status means that part of him is alive while the other is dead, creating immunity to vampire bites. With that realization, Michael and his girlfriend inject dying Blade with a low dose of Morbius's mutated blood to mutate Blade's living side, thereby saving his life. After Michael Morbius injects Blade with mutated DNA, Blade's body goes into a cocoon stage of development. Minutes later, Blade hatches from the cocoon nearly unrecognizable with restored youth, fangs, and increased strength. Knowing that Blade now needs to feed on blood, Michael quickly shields his girlfriend from him using his body, and Morbius guides Blade to a refrigerator filled with blood packs, which he quickly gobbles up. Morbius helps Blade off the floor, as he tells him not to lose himself in the hunger for blood. Michael also tells Blade that he must trust him if he wants to retain his humanity and freedom. Blade finally agrees with Michael by trusting him while promising revenge against Hunger. Meanwhile, as Michael is nursing Blade, the Dark Avengers begin their assault on Red Skull's castle. Agent 13 separates from her team to search for Blade. She finds him in a lab with Michael and the lab assistant. As the castle assault continues, Hunger successfully frees Dracula and his dark vampires from their interdimensional prison. Ancient One and the rest of his team attempt to push the vampires back into their prison, but Dracula's forces begin to overwhelm them. Agent 13 disables the bomb on Michael's girlfriend, and Blade joins the Dark Avengers in their battle against Dracula and Hunger. Hunger attempts to use the portal to block out the sun, but Ancient One turns off the portal, thereby failing to re-imprison Dracula. As Dracula and Hunger attempt to kill the Ancient One, Blade, the Dark Avengers, and Morbius successfully fight back. Sensing the sun's rising, Dracula orders a retreat, causing Hunger, some vampires, and most of Hydra to vacate the castle. With the battle over, Blade begins to feed on the remaining wounded Hydra agents lying on the floor. The Dark Avengers stare in shock and awe as they see how Blade has changed in looks and feeding practices. Michael explains to the team that he mutated Blade to save his life, which has caused him to de-age and feed on blood. With that knowledge, Hannibal King treats Blade with his serum that he uses on himself to treat his vampire dark side. The serum works, and Blade stops feeding on wounded Hydra agents. Meanwhile, the sun rises, and Hannibal quickly puts on his coat to prevent being burned. But everyone is shocked at how Blade is now immune to sunlight damage as they see the sun bounce off his skin. Union Jack tells Blade, "You're awesome," as the carrier appers flying at Red Skull's castle. Sean's preferred version of the MCU Blade 2 movie is different from the real one because of Michael Morbius. And Sean's story about his MCU Blade 2 suggestion also has a theme about trust, which contrasts with the original. This theme of trust evolved the main character in every conflict, starting at the first battle between Blade and Michael Morbius. The theme of Sean's story ended with Blade finally trusting his Dark Avengers team to fight alongside them. These events of the story changed Blade's view of others and himself. Lastly, Sean wants everyone to know that he will reveal his ideal Hollywood candidates for this story during his next YouTube entry. Special note: Sean also wants everyone to know that he is redoing his MCU Blade 1 suggestion since he wants a Blade character that is vulnerable to sunburns leading up to his sequel